You're listening to From Heaven and Hope, a weekly podcast where Nicole Fraser brings you conversations from those who have been affected by grief. Whether a parent, child, friend, counselor, pastor, or philanthropist, everyone moves through and conquers grief in their own way. We know that what you're facing is a long road, but no matter how dark that road is, there will always be light. There will always be purpose. From where they are in heaven to the hope you need to move forward, we want to help you on that journey. Here is today's episode.
Good morning and happy Tuesday, friends. I'm so glad you're here with me today because today's guest has a real story to tell. Today we're hearing from Meg Wallace, who lost both her parents and then her son in the most random, tragic way, and still has found a way to move through it and find peace and joy in all of her days. So without further delay, here she is. Hey, how are you?
I am well. Thank you.
Good. So for everyone listening at home, Margaret and I are actually cousins. My dad and her mom are siblings, and they have another sister in between them. However, we actually haven't seen each other for years out of, I don't know, probably pure laziness. But we actually share another bond. Apart from being cousins, we're actually both angel parents. We both lost children. So Margaret, why don't you take a few minutes to just walk us through your journey and your story up until now?
I don't know how far back to start, but I mean, basically, I have always been an adventurer, I would say. And so I have filled my life with excitement and adventure. And when my husband and I met, we were at a place in our lives where we didn't really want to stick around where we were. So we moved to the Middle East, which is a little bit crazy. And we traveled around the world. We lived there for 5 years. And our son Finn was born there in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. And with Finn, we traveled all around the world as well. I did the math, and he had been to 32 countries. Yeah, by the age of 6, which is pretty great.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, I know that's brief, but it does kind of capture who we are and how we lived with Finn. The biggest adventure we ever went on was a road trip across 24 countries. And we did that with Finn. He was 1.5 when we left, and we drove across the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Syria. And of course, you couldn't do that now with the state of the world. And through Turkey and Eastern and Western Europe. And then we finished our trip in Scotland and ditched the car and flew home. So yeah, it was really awesome.
That's so cool. So why did you come home? Like, what was the motivation for coming home after you'd spent so much time overseas?
We had a love-hate relationship, to be honest, with the Middle East. It's a very different kind of place. We stayed because there was a lot of financial freedom, and geographically where it is, we could travel all over the world. So that was the fun part. I had a great job. My husband had a great job. It was excellent for career building, but it wasn't a place that we wanted to raise our family, for sure. It's very tough living there as a woman, and as a feminist, I really struggled with that every day. And we just, you know what, we wanted to come home. We wanted to raise Finn at home with his family. Family has always been very important to me. And it was just time. They joke over there, you know, when this has bad word in it. When the bag of poo starts to outweigh the bag of gold, like it's time to come home. Like you've really got to weigh it out. And so we had a great time, and then it was time to come home. Yeah.
Okay. And
so
then
we just drove across 24 countries.
Yeah. And then came home. That's awesome. Yeah. And then when do you want to talk a bit about your mom, like before we kind of get into Finn, like after you came home?
Yeah, sure.
And your dad, I guess, too. You could talk about that if you want.
Yeah. So, I mean, I lost both my parents well, they weren't young, they were in their 70s, but it felt like I lost them really early. So my dad actually passed away before Finn was born, so he never met him. And he lived in a nursing home for 9 years as the result of a really horrible stroke. And my mom, the sweetest human being on the planet, I think, of course, that really was a challenge for her. So she used to come and visit us actually when we were in Abu Dhabi. It was the very first time she'd ever not spent a day with my dad. So we convinced her that he would be okay. And she flew over a few times and we traveled with her. She was there when Finn was born. She and I went to Thailand actually. Well, obviously I didn't conceive in Thailand because David wasn't there, but around that time. So she knew that we were pregnant right away, which was really exciting. She came to Ethiopia with us. She was a very quiet woman, but she just needed someone to make a plan, and then she was game for it. But just don't ask her to like figure out any details. And so when we came home, my mom was so excited. She was such a great grandparent, but she got sick with brain cancer, terminal brain cancer. And so she passed away, I don't know, maybe 8 months actually before Finn did. So we'd had a very stressful time. It was about 16 months with my mom of brain operations, radiation, chemical imbalances, her being manic due to meds, and then clinically depressed, unresponsive. It was just, it was horrible and a very long and drawn out process. So when she passed away, we had a short reprieve, I guess. Didn't feel like it, of course, dealing with estate stuff and wills and selling her house and all of her things. And then in less than a year, Finn passed away just suddenly with the accident. So
Right.
It was a rough go.
Mm-hmm. So during before Finn passed away and like after your mom, how do you feel like yourself and your sister, like how do you feel like you managed through those 8 months while it was like stressful and painful at the same time? Like what were some of the things you did? Do you remember?
It's interesting that you asked, do I remember? Because I find with grief, that's one thing that I lose. I have a lot of memories. Well, I just don't have them. And people will say something and I say, I'm really sorry, but I like that period of my life, I don't really remember a lot.
Yeah.
Beyond just the loss and the grief and all of the stress, like there's a lot of driving 5 hours across Algonquin Park to get to Ottawa. Even after she died, back and forth to Peterborough, which is a 3-hour drive for me to deal with things because my sister lives in the States. So I did feel like the burden of that sort of fell to me, which was fine. I was also miserable in my job, like the most miserable person ever in my job. So I basically worked all day, came home. I felt like I was a really bad mom to Finn because I was tired from work. And then I'd spend hours like changing mailing addresses and dealing with lawyers and all of these things. So I don't feel like it was definitely not a happy or easy time. Mm-hmm. I don't really remember having any real joy. Right. Occasionally, and David took the brunt of that because I kind of had 2 jobs. Like being an executor is a big job.
Yeah.
On top of your other job, and then trying to be a mom.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I feel like I'm talking in circles, but it was a really challenging time. So we weren't really in a great place anyway.
Yeah. And then 8 months after that, or 8 months after your mom passed away, your son passes away. So do you want to share how that happened?
So David is my husband, an amazing, amazing person. And like anyone in town would say, he was just the best dad. He basically would put on his 6-year-old hat and just be Finn's best friend. And they would play outside and go on treasure hunts and be pirates and do all of these things together. So I had been at work, but I hurt my back. So I had come home early and David got Finn off the bus and they just went for a walk like they would often do. They'd go to the library, which is like maybe a kilometer walk from our house. And we live rurally, just so your listeners know, like out in the forest, basically. And we were very much believers, and I still believe and endorse it, that kids need unstructured playtime and outside. And so while they were together, they weren't like physically side by side. And David said, I'll meet you down by the road, because they were just mucking around, like kind of in a forest area off the side of our road. And Finn said, okay, I'll come down this way. And he never came down. So even though David was at most 100 meters away from him, he just effectively disappeared. So the short of it is that he was crushed by a large boulder that fell on top of him. And in a way, it's a blessing, because David was searching for him, that he could not find him, because it would have been a devastating discovery. We, of course, called. David came home and said, is Finn here? Like, where is he? Like, he was with me and now he's gone. And so we searched the house and no, he wasn't there. And we called all our friends to do a search as well. I called 911. 911 came, fire, ambulance, police, of course. And a good friend of ours found him, and they were able to get him out. But he was, what my friend said, VSA, so vital signs absent. They took us to the hospital. We followed the ambulance, and he was pronounced dead.
Yeah. I remember I was on the train home from Toronto, coming from work. And I don't know why I had picked up my phone and like looked at your Facebook page, like, because we're like, of the cousins on this side, I'd say we were the closest growing up. But but at that time we weren't really connecting like very often. So but I don't know why I had looked at your Facebook page and I had seen all these comments, and I was like, I don't understand. I just had this like feeling that something was really wrong, and I didn't know what it was. And I just Googled it, and then the article came up, and honestly, like I just like burst into tears on the GO train, because at that time I was also pregnant. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know how to process that. It felt so random, and I just can't imagine, like from your perspective, what that, just like a fluke. There's like the weirdest, most random fluke.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it. People talk about accidents, right? Like, and there are things that are within your scope of understanding. Like if you'd been hit by a car, it wouldn't be any easier, but like those things happen, and you're like, I don't know, you can understand it. You can explain it.
Yeah.
But to just like all of a sudden have a boulder fall on you, like,
yeah,
it's really indescribable. And it was very hard to wrap our heads around.
Yeah.
Like, how did this happen? And for David, he felt this tremendous sense of guilt, because, he went through for years, what if I'd done this, or what if we hadn't walked on that path, or what if I'd only said, come down together, all of these things to try and make sense of it in your head. And you just can't.
No.
For us, I just had to come to a point where I could accept it, because I would fight it. And then I'd say to myself, like, I'm laughing because of the ridiculous conversations I had with myself over the years. Like, you can't fight it. You can't change it. Mm-hmm. And you're not moving forward. For me, I had to accept it. Like, this is part of my life now. And as much as I hate it, and I would do anything to undo it if it were undoable, I can't. So what am I going to do with that?
Right.
Do everything I can to move forward.
Right. I mean, and that's basically the point of this podcast, right? It's to sort of it's to sort of illustrate that as it can get the worst it could possibly get, and there still can be light. You can still find your way. It's just a matter of finding your way. But I remember I came to Finn's memorial service, and I was pretty pregnant. Like I was about, 6 months pregnant. And I remember you saying to me, I was thinking that they could grow up together. Like, and I don't even think you knew I was pregnant, but you had said something like that to me. And I was like, well, I'm actually expecting. And then there was like this brief moment of like bittersweetness. And then like 6 months after, 4 months after that, my son passes away, and they end up together anyways, so it's just kind of a weird, I don't know if irony or bittersweet kind of in a way. So, yeah. But do you want to talk about that memorial service? Because that was one of the most like unique and interesting like memorial services I've ever been to.
I will try my best, but this was again one of those things that I don't remember in great detail. We of course were involved in the planning of it, but we were not the spearheaders or the main organizers. This will backtrack a little bit, but it's relevant. when Finn, we say took his wings. When Finn took his wings, like we had what became called the inner sanctum of people who protected us, because it was a very public death, inquiries and all kinds of horrible things. So 5 or 6 people just whoosh, like they were allowed in our house. They filtered mail, they filtered phone calls, deliveries of flowers and food and all of these things. And David and I just like, I don't even know what we did. Like we just cried, I think. Anyway, these group of people also coordinated, yes, this very unique and beautiful ceremony of and for Finn. It was held at a golf course, interestingly, but we are not religious people, and so we didn't want it in a church. It was donated to us. A caterer donated all of the food, which is amazing. We tried to pay; they would not let us pay. And I guess I don't feel like it was intentionally unique. We just wanted it to reflect Finn. Of course, every parent thinks their kid is unique, and they are. They're all unique and beautiful. So we had a teacher, but not Finn's teacher, as our, for lack of a better word, MC. Mm-hmm. And we had some people speak on our behalf. We had Lego there because Finn was like Lego obsessed. And we had an area where people could write their memories of Finn. And I'm so grateful that happened. Because kids in his class, would draw a picture if they weren't, at a stage where they could write. And so then we have all of them, and our friend put this together in this amazing book. So it's I know that your readers can't see it, but it's a big book, and it's really thick, and it's just full. I said readers, your listeners.
It's okay.
It's just full of photos, because then people would send them. So we can go back and see and flip through this. And it's this window into his life, mm-hmm. and all of the interactions he had with people that we had no idea, right? Yeah. Like his janitor had this amazing, playful relationship with Finn that was really unique and special. And I'm so grateful to have that memory, because I don't know that was on memory, but know that about Finn, because I don't, there's no other way I think I would have known it unless they came over to tell us. So,
yeah. No, it was really special. It was a really, like, you could sense the kind of kid he was, like, just by being there, and the people that were there. So,
yeah. And we played music. Music was a big part of all of our lives and our lives together. So we played Finn's favorite songs. One of them is Coldplay, and I know that we'll end up talking about Coldplay later.
You can talk about it now. Talk about it.
Huge,
you talk about Coldplay now. Yeah, that's
sure.
Great. Yeah.
So Coldplay was Finn's favorite band, and we used to dance together, the three of us. We'd have, like, it started off as like Friday night was family night, so we'd watch movies and eat chips and junk food, and we'd always dance. So everyone, then it happened every night where before Finn went to bed, we would each play our favorite song, and we would all dance together to each person's favorite song. And without fail, Finn's favorite song was always Sky Full of Stars by Coldplay. And it was just like, oh, my heart is just bursting.
Yeah.
With happiness and sadness.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I think of those moments. So we played Coldplay, and, for months afterwards, I get all of these texts or Facebook messages like, I don't know why I have to tell you this, but like, I just heard Coldplay on the radio, and I want you to know I'm thinking about Finn. Like messages, multiple messages a day. Like, I'm thinking about Finn, Coldplay came on, or even the other songs as well. But Coldplay was very much Finn's song. So fast forward to, we see that Coldplay is coming to Toronto, and like they announced their tours like at least 12 months to like 18 months in advance. And I said to David, like, I would really like to go if we can get tickets. Like, do you feel ready? Because it's going to be amazing, but hard to go and see Finn's favorite band. So we were able to get tickets, and like really great tickets. Like, we were like, fuck it, we don't care how much it costs. We are getting the best seats that we can get.
Yeah.
So we laid out, we didn't care. We were really excited about it. And a bunch of our friends said, like, we want to come to the concert with you. And we're like, great. So we all got these great seats together. And one of David's friends on Facebook said, I don't know if you know this, but like, you can contact the band and they actually get back to you. And she posted a link where you can contact the band. And she said, I told them that you were coming to the concert, and I told them about Finn, and I asked them if they would play Sky Full of Stars at this concert. So that got shared, I don't know how many times, and I just see it getting shared and shared and shared and shared. And people are like, I messaged the band, I messaged the band, I messaged the band, I know about Finn, people we didn't even know.
Yep.
So I thought, well, maybe I better message the band. Like, I'm Finn's mom. So I send a message. It's so long that it actually like cut me off. And so then I sent a follow-up, like the rest of the story. I just laid it all out to the band. But people have been saying they were getting like an automated sort of cut and paste message back. Like, thank you so much. We sadly get, similar messages often. And unfortunately, we just can't dedicate songs to specific people. So I got that message back, and it was fine. But then I got a personal message from someone named Debs, and Deb said, I know all about Finn.
I've received all the messages.
Yes, she said. In fact, I don't mean to be rude, but oh gosh, I can't remember what she called it, like a campaign or something. She's like, is there any way you can call off the campaign? Because I do respond to every single message, and there's hundreds of them coming in about Finn. And I said, look, I'm so sorry. Like, I actually had nothing to do with that. I'm messaging you because I said, I can ask people not to. And she said, okay. So it was this really nice message. And she said, what you can do is participate in this Instagram competition or whatever contest. And I can like help you maybe figure out how to like get to the band that way. I'm like, that'd be amazing. Thanks so much. So I think this was in August or something. So on October the 14th, which is Finn's birthday, I get a message from Debs from Coldplay. And she says, I know it's Finn's birthday today. I wanted to wish him a happy birthday and let you know that we're thinking about you. And I was like, are you for real? Like, I guess I'd mentioned Finn's birthday in my initial blathering message to the band months ago. And she wrote it down and recorded it and then like sent me a message. Like, come on, that's amazing, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I say, thank you so much. And she says, I have special tickets for you for the show. And I was like, well, that's really amazing. Thank you so much. But like, we already have tickets. So like, please give them to someone else who needs them. And she said, no, the band wants you to have these tickets. So you can give away or sell your tickets, whatever you want. But like, we have like VIP tickets for you. They're free. And I was like, what? Okay. So we go to the concert. Fast forward, we go to the concert, and Deb's message, like, just want to make sure you're going to the concert. And we're like, yeah, we're going to the concert. So we go down, and all of our our really close friends are there, and we stay together in an Airbnb. We have a great time. And we go to the concert, and unfortunately now our seats are not directly with our friends. And Sky Full of Stars comes on, and like Dave and I are just bawling, and it's okay, but it's still it's an amazing experience. And we're in the VIP section with like, I don't know, Chris Martin's brother and like the drummer's wife's sister and all these people. And at the end of the concert, Chris Martin dedicates the whole show to Finn. And like, I start screaming. David's just like he can't believe it. I'm like, ah! And so everyone in the VIP section is like, oh my God, like, are you his parents? We're like, yeah. They're like, they've never dedicated a show. They never really dedicate anything, but they've never dedicated a whole show to somebody. So we're losing our minds. My phone just is like exploding with people who are like, I'm at the concert. Like, holy cow, is this like you and Finn?
Yeah. So
fortunately we, I wasn't recording it. I don't do that at concerts, but we were able to find on YouTube the dedication. We downloaded it, and I'm glad, because of course it was copyrighted and taken down. So I do have a video of Chris Martin dedicating the whole concert to Finn. It was just, it may not sound like much, but it was like the best thing out of a horrible thing, I think. And it gave me like to think that the world's most popular band, at least at the time, like knows who my kid is and like cared enough to dedicate their entire show to him. I don't know, like what an amazing group of people, humans they are.
Yeah, it's pretty special. These kind of things can like bring out the best and the worst in people, but
absolutely
most of the time it brings out people's like compassion and love and everything.
Yes.
So on that note, like you mentioned your friends a lot. So how did you lean on your friends, and what are some of the things that they did to help, or what are things that happened, maybe not by your friends, but that just like wasn't helpful? Like what would be something
Yeah.
that you, if someone's listening that's trying to support somebody, what would
Well,
you?
I'll start with the not helpful. I remember some of your posts, if it's okay for me to talk about them,
Sure. Yeah.
where you'd say, someone might say something to you. And so you would say, not helpful. And I was like, you go, girl, because people need to know and they need to understand.
Yeah.
I got really mad.
Yeah.
Like your emotions will be all over the map for sure. Well, mostly sad. It'd be
Yeah.
like massively depressed. At least for a while.
Yeah.
But believe me, there's hope. Where I got really mad at people. I remember one, like we're not close friends, but we're in the same circle and our kids would do stuff together. And always the Christmas potluck, we'd all be there and stuff. And so she was posting about how sad she was for her son that Finn had died. And she was so sad, like maybe they could support, like have this grief support thing. And I was like, I lost my mind. Like, I was like, oh, you're sad? Let me tell you about sad. Of course, I wasn't going to post it online. So I went on a rampage with one of our people in our inner sanctum. And I believe he went and spoke to her and said, like, you need to stop doing that.
Rein it in.
But yeah, rein it in. Yes, we are all sad and we are all grieving. But it's nothing in comparison to them. So you need to like not make it about you. Okay. And I realize now, like it was the ripple effect and the impact of what we called our loss. It's not our loss. It's a lot of people's loss. People we didn't even know would be like, come and give us stuff. Like, we don't know what to do. We don't know you, but we just know that this must be horrible. And so here's something. The other thing that really made me upset was the pity face. So, well, there's two things. So one was I know they can't see my face, but I know that you know the face.
I know the face.
They're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like,
yeah.
Like, you know, where you can just
off. Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to function. Like you're not helping right now. So that was one. And the other thing was being ignored. So like we live in a small town. Everybody knows everybody, but it's at least an hour to get to anywhere else. We would drive an hour to go to get groceries. Anywhere else where I could just like go somewhere and not get the pity face for one. And also not see people who would then like see us and be like, I don't know what to say to them. So they literally go and hide. You'd see that they saw you and they'd be like, oh, I hope they didn't see me. And then they go in another aisle and you're like, I'm not contagious. There's something actually wrong with me. I'm just going through a really rough time.
Yeah.
So you like hiding and sneaking away is not helpful.
Yeah.
So those would probably be the main things. I know that's the downside of it. We feel very fortunate being in a small community because people rallied around us in like incredible ways that make me like, I still can't believe what people did for us. They paid bills for us. Not that we couldn't afford to. We just like, I don't know. Right. Like if it wasn't automated, they made lists of like, you know, these 10 people came by and dropped all of these things off for you. So just so you know, right. Like, cause we had no idea. Organizing Finn's ceremony of life. There are so many things that I don't even know that people did for us. And I went through this period. I know I'm on a tangent now. It's kind of the way I roll, but
it's okay.
Where I felt absolutely obsessed and compelled with thanking everybody for everything that they did. It was just like something I felt like I needed to do. And people were like, you don't need to thank us, you know, for that. But, you know, complete strangers gave us gift cards to the Marriott and like any Marriott. And they're like, we just know that it's probably going to be good for you to get the heck out of here at some point. So here's like $200 in Marriott hotel gift cards. Like, wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Is there anything that you found, like the most helpful? Like, was there anything like just logically, practically that just took something off your plate?
I mean, I have many good friends. Some friends kind of fell off the radar. They couldn't deal with it. They're not my friends anymore. And I'm just like, that's too bad, but okay. And then other people like emerged from the woodwork and I'm like, you are my savior, really.
Yep.
So one person is a friend of mine. His name is Peter. I knew him, but he wasn't a great friend. And he would send a message, like just a text, like, how are you feeling? And I actually coached him a little bit, like, how are you doing today? Well, brutal.
Yeah.
So you can say things like, how are you doing right now? Right? Because that's all I'm in. I'm in like the moment right now. And I could say like, right now I'm doing really well, or I'm having a really hard time right now. Little texts and messages that were just things like, I'm thinking about you right now. And the nice thing about Peter and other people was like, I didn't associate him with Finn. Like he wasn't a part of our lives or anything really. He was an acquaintance. So to have someone where it was like, I could sort of emotionally just not deal with it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Carol, oh my gosh, I honestly don't know if I could have done it without Carol, because she was the perfect balance of like nurture. And you know what, Meg? I'm coming over there and I'm putting you in the shower. If you're not in the shower, by the time I get over there, I'm putting you in it, because I know that you haven't showered for 4 days and you're disgusting. like funny, but not funny, right? She'd be like, when did you eat last? And I'm like, honestly, I can't eat. Like it makes me want to puke when I even think about food.
Yeah.
And so she was like, well, here's 20 different things you could eat, and lay it out in front of me. She's like, pick 2. And like literally she would make me eat. I lived on plain yogurt and cucumber for about a month because that was all that I could like tolerate. So Carol, Peter, Peter's wife, Kathleen, she, for whatever reason, she was the only person that I could completely lose my shit and ball with.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd be having a total meltdown, and David would be like, do you need Kathleen? And I'd be like, yep. And he'd text Kathleen, he'd be like, can you come over? Because Meg's like losing it. And Kathleen would come over, and I don't know, I'm guessing for you, like I would have different layers of crying, like a little bit of cry, long cry, deep sobbing cry, and then like just complete shit losing, bawling my eyes out. But I would only do that with Kathleen. No idea why. So I found that I had people, there was no one person that was perfect, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there were many different things that different people could do, that they were able to do. Like I couldn't sit with Peter and bawl my eyes out. No, never.
No, it was just him kind
You'd
of
be like, why don't you come over? Because there's a beautiful sunset.
Yeah.
And like, we'll just take sunset pictures. And I'm like, fine, I'll come over and take sunset pictures with you and Kathleen, right?
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We went to a grief counselor after Brady passed away. And I remember her saying something like your friends will fall into 3 categories. There will be ones that will either overcompensate / like people that you don't know will come out of the woodwork, or you'll have and then number 2, you'll have friends that'll just stay the same. They'll just stay the same as they always were, always there. And then you'll have ones that will disappear, and you just have to, the ones that disappear, you just have to accept. And the ones that you feel like are overcompensating, you just have to tell them that it's too much. And she's like, you can't be afraid. And I guess it's kind of true across the board, because it's exactly how it was for me. So you have some that fall off, and some that are just annoying, but trying, and then some that are just there, that are just the perfect ones to be there. So that's good.
I said to people, because some people would say, I don't know what to say. And I say, the worst thing is to say nothing. Mm-hmm. There was a time where I never really got mad at people for trying, right? Like you can't be mad at people for trying in a situation where there's no guidebook.
No.
Right? Like I'm sure there's books on like how to help someone deal with grief, but every situation is so different. And each person that's in grief or grieving is different.
Yeah.
But to not acknowledge it, that I found very hurtful. To acknowledge it badly, I might be like, well, but I know what you meant. I know your intentions were good. So like, it's okay.
Yeah. And I think if you're accepting, like if you accept the fact that like, if you reach out and say something and you say potentially the wrong thing, or what that person perceives as the wrong thing, if you can accept that they will tell you it's the wrong thing, then you're good. Like, then it's all good. Like I had a few friends like that would often like approach me with the pity thing. And I was like, nope, don't say it. And then, but thankfully the response was like, I'm so sorry. Like I sometimes don't know how to approach this, but I'm there for you. Like it was all because they cared. They just didn't know how. So as long as you can accept that, I think that's good.
I have never been good. And I think a lot of people are similar to me. Like asking for help, I'm not wired to do it. It was my dad's British upbringing. Pull up your bootstraps and like just carry on. So I didn't want to ask for help. My entire life, I never wanted to be seen as needing help or being weak. Like I would suffer trying to do it myself versus just being like, hey, can you help me lift this? I don't know. That's just the way that I was. So I arrived in this place where I didn't want to be, where, man, do you ever need help? And like, that would be some advice I would offer unsolicitedly, if that's a word, is ask for help. And it doesn't matter in what capacity. Like, if you need someone to come and clean your house, oh, that's the other thing. People will come and clean our house. Like, thank God.
Yeah.
And do the laundry, shovel the driveway or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But asking for help, because I didn't know what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I did get to a place where I could, took me a long time, accept people helping in all different kinds of ways and capacities. But it's not something that I don't think you can do by yourself.
No, it takes a village.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the park, like Finn's Park, and any initiatives that you've done kind of on his behalf?
Yeah. This was another area where we were just overwhelmed by human kindness. So Finn was 6.5, and lots of crazy things happened, like crazy awesome. His principal approached us and said, we want to create an outdoor classroom. Would you be interested in participating in that? And we know Finn was, and you raised Finn as an outdoor child and all of these things. And we're like, yeah, that would be amazing. So the outdoor classroom is dedicated to Finn. And there's a beautiful wooden bench that's got the inscription and stuff in it. So there was that, but we weren't involved too much with that. But the outdoor classroom at Humphrey School in Humphrey is dedicated to Finn, which we love. So sometimes we cycle by and we stop and we hang out in the outdoor classroom there. The other thing was people really want to help and they don't know how. And we were like, people wanted to donate money to like literally anything. And we're like, we don't need the money, right? Like we don't need the money. So we set up a fund called the Finn Bywater Outdoor Explorers Fund. And people donated tons and tons of money to it. And we didn't really even know at the time, like how we would use the funds that were there. And we became aware of it. Really, it wasn't even an initiative. It was talk. It was an idea of purchasing some land beside, schools are amalgamating. So there's a new school that had been built or was being built in the town of Parry Sound. They cleared the land and like leveled it and put in some grass and some pavement. Like, what happened to the trees? But right next door to it is this beautiful, rocky, rugged, old, almost like old pine trees. And it's just this amazing piece of property. And there was like the teachers had always wanted the school board to buy that piece of land as well when they bought the property to build the new school, and that they did not. So there was talk of, could we raise money to buy that piece of property and convert it into like a rugged nature park right in the middle of Parry Sound, but that the students at the elementary school could then use it. So there were some amazing people. David and I were involved with it, but we were definitely not the spearheaders of it. It became Treetops Community Forest, and the funds from the Finn Bywater Outdoor Explorers Fund. It's funny because I told you about memory, but it was about $30,000, I would say.
Yeah.
We donated that towards the purchase of the property. So now there's a trail all around the property. It's called Finn's Trail. Like kids can run there's no fence, can run from the grass up into the rugged area, climb trees, climb on rocks. It's a beautiful, there's even like almost a natural amphitheater there so that they can have class. A lot of teachers go out and have classes there. So we're really happy about that.
That's awesome. I think that's one of the best ways to sort of, find joy and like peace and catharsis kind of in the process, is to just give something back in their name kind of. So how do you think, like, how has, do you feel like the dynamic of your marriage has changed? And what advice would you give to couples that are struggling, that maybe have lost a child? Is there anything you guys did that kind of got you through it, or what did you guys do?
Oh gosh.
I know. Loaded question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure you're aware of the stat. It varies, but statistically, and this is depressing, most couples that lose a child won't make it married. They might stay friends. They might separate. And within days, I said to David, I remembered, like, we're not going to be that stat. And so we worked really hard. We went to counseling together. But it became clear so quickly how different David and I are in terms of the way that we grieve, which is also very common. I wanted to talk about Finn, and David couldn't, and I'm like, but you had all this more time with him. Like, him, you have all these stories that I don't even know. Like, I need to hear that. But he couldn't, right? No blame, no judgment, but that he just couldn't. And so we ended up just trying to cope ourselves. And I think that, as for us, and again, I'm not saying this is for everybody, but when something so traumatic happens to you, all of your individual shit comes up, like even from before you met your partner. So, and as much as you may think, oh, I've dealt with all that stuff, like, we're fragile. And for me, all of this stuff came up, and all of the stuff, David's stuff, came up. So couples counseling wasn't helping us because we had so much work that we needed to figure out on our own. So there was a time where, we were really committed to working together, like close to after Finn died, to then just trying to just survive, I think would be a good word. Like just trying to survive on our own. The challenge we faced was that, like, our coping mechanisms that you develop as a very young kid for whatever stuff you're having to deal with as a kid, they just came back in full force. And for me, I'm a doer. Like, I deal with stuff by, like, doing stuff. So I created a new business, which has become very successful because I was obsessed with doing stuff about it. But in doing all of this stuff, I wasn't spending time at home. It was a way for me to avoid reality. I was seen as being, like, very successful and, like, wow, Meg's doing so well. Like, look, she's created this new business and look what she's doing for the community. And meanwhile, I'm just doing. I'm not really coping or dealing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until we really took some time to deal with our own stuff that we could actually come back together. So there were, I won't lie, like, we really just almost didn't make it. Like, yeah. So we made it and I'm so glad.
Yeah.
But we had to really recommit to being together, and dealing with our stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you guys spend a lot of time outside, do you feel like that helped kind of, did you take any trips or do anything that would kind of, you could do things together that you liked? Would that help at all? Or was that part of it? I don't even know.
Yes and no. For a long time, there were just things that were so hard to do because we'd always done them with Finn. So we would go on annual camping trips with Finn. So we were looking at the calendar in, August going, we should go on our annual camping trip. And we just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Because Finn wasn't going to be there.
Yeah.
So we did it in, like, October, and I think it was important for us to do it, but it wasn't enjoyable. It was very hard because we took our first family portrait, just the two of us.
Yeah.
Right. And Finn's paddle, we brought Finn's paddle with us. So now we find, I guess, peace and comfort. We do find it outside through exercise, and travel. So January of last year, we went to Morocco, and that was sort of like the last hurrah. Like, either we are going to stay married or we're getting a divorce. So let's just go and do something that we're so really epically good at, which is travel, in developing countries. We'd already lived in Arabia, right, for 5 years. So we spoke a bit of the language and we're familiar with the culture, but we kind of went as friends with no expectation. It's just, we've always loved each other, but can we do this together and be a good team again? And we were like, let's do this. So here we are a year again.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And thank goodness you took the trip, because then the world shut down and you can't go anywhere now.
Yes, it's true. It's true. I have to say that besides losing Finn, staying married has been the hardest thing.
Yeah.
And if if you can do it, like if you're struggling and you've lost a child, like that would be my other piece of unsolicited advice. Like sacrifice everything to stay with that person if it makes sense and you can do it.
Yeah.
But for us, like I had to make changes personally and David had to make changes personally before we could be like, there you are, there's the person I fell in love with. And like, I feel like I'm back to the person that I was. And even at the risk of sounding cheesy, like we're both individually better people than we were before Finn died because we've had to do all of this work.
Yeah. No, I completely like empathize with that sort of story and the trajectory and kind of the ups and downs. So I can't remember if I think it was a year after, was it about a year after Finn passed away that you guys went and saw the medium? Do you want to talk about that? So that was like one of the coolest things for me because you connected with me after that too. So that was interesting.
I just got goosebumps. I had never been to a medium before and I'm a very logical, practical person. But I would say that I'm spiritual, but I don't think I really understood what that meant for me. And I'd heard about this man named Mark from David's sister who had been to see him. And Mark started talking about Finn and David's sister had never even said anything. And so she was like, oh my gosh, like this guy is totally legit. Like you should go and see him. And I'm like, all right, I'm going. So I booked an appointment for me and David, but I booked it under a fake name because as you did, if you Google Finn, like you can find out everything. If you Google my name, you'll find out everything. So I wanted it to be an authentic experience without any preconceived anything. So I went as Becky. And I used my friend Becky, my friend, organized it for me. So we show up and right away he was like, tell me about your tattoos. So we each got a tattoo of Finn's signature that we got from his schoolwork, which you cannot see. And he just started talking about Finn. He started telling us from Finn's perspective. He told us exactly how he died. There's no way like he would know that. He drew a map. He was explaining where David was and what David was doing. So clearly we were like, wow. At first you were like, I just kept replaying all of the facts, for lack of a better word. Well, Finn said this, he knew that we planted daffodils at the end of the driveway where we used to wait for the bus. Like what? Like, yeah. And I should clarify, I didn't plant the daffodils. David planted the daffodils. So I didn't even know about the daffodils. And then David's like, yeah, I planted daffodils there. So I went through this period of like, oh my God, like Finn said this. And then I just came to this realization, none of that matters. To me, anyway, what matters is that he's still here. Yeah. He's just not physically here. Yeah. And it was this huge gift in a way that I could connect with Finn, even though I'm not a medium, but I have discovered that I can talk to Finn and that I can receive messages from Finn. It's not like a direct conversation. Right. But that has given me a tremendous amount of peace and comfort and hope. Yeah. And I talk to Finn every day. I know that sounds super weird, but usually it's when I'm outside. So to go back to the nature piece where I sense him and I see him, not in a physical way, and so I know that he's with me. And when I'm in a really bad place, I will actually say, I need help right now. Can you help me? Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So, yeah. And I've been to see Mark on a number of times. Oh yeah. Can I link Brady in there? Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. So I don't know which, because I've seen Mark 3 or 4 times now, which time, but Mark kept saying there's someone here as well. The letter B. And I was like, oh, B. And Finn was, and you might remember better, but Finn was saying that he was looking after Brady. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah. No. I think your message to me was something like, we saw the medium and then he had talked about your tattoos, but then also talked about ours. And you were like, no, we don't have 2 tattoos on our feet. Like they're like, that's not like, cause my tattoo of Brady's on my foot. And so I think that's how it started. And then something about a bee. And then I remember the end result was that
that for Brady was that he was blissful and that he was with Finn. And I was like, that's awesome. That's just like the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I spoke at Brady's funeral, and I, like one of the things I had said was like, it was more like a letter to him, and there was a few people that had passed away kind of previous to Brady, like including aunts and uncles and things. And so I had said, but one of the people was Finn. And I had said in it, I hope you're skipping stones with Finn or something like that. And then 3 months later, you're like, yeah, they are. They're together. They're good. So it's just awesome. I love that.
If there are people out there who would consider it, I know that it can be, kind of like, I don't really believe that stuff, but I didn't either. And for me, it was just so comforting to know that Finn's fine, and that he's with my parents. And that he's really, really a happy boy growing up in heaven, if you believe in heaven, out there, wherever
you believe they are. Yeah. That's awesome. I guess, so speaking of like the daffodils, do you have other places in your home that are dedicated to them, or that you keep kind of the same, and do they bring you sadness, or do they make you happy?
We had a bunch of photos that another artist, photographer did on canvas for us. So, and they were there at Finn's ceremony, and he gave them all to us. There's like 6 large canvas wrapped photos. So we have them in our home in various places. And actually, we have a corner in our main living area. It's not a shrine, but it's got a photo of Finn, feathers that he collected, his paddle, his favorite jacket, and a few other items that we rotate around kind of depending on the season. Sometimes we put like his swimsuit because he was a total water boy, and his snorkel and stuff like that. But we didn't actually, Finn was cremated, and we didn't bury him in a particular place. We went out on Georgian Bay. Ooh, here it comes.
Okay.
And we took his ashes and we put them in a special place that we've been all together on a trip. Actually, where one of the photos is that I have up right now. We went to my old family cottage, and because I had promised Finn that we were going to go there that summer, he passed away in April. So I went there and I put some of his ashes there. And then there's just bits of him everywhere. I don't feel like I need a place to go to be with him because he's everywhere for me.
Mm-hmm. That's
so
great.
Yeah, but mostly just photos. There's the park, of course.
Yeah.
And the outdoor classroom at his school. So I feel like he's remembered in so many ways by so many people, and that they go to those places, but I just go with him wherever I need to.
Yeah.
Whenever I need to.
That's great. That's great. And I guess I guess this is more applicable, like I think, to right after or within the first year-ish, but I find it sort of comes up here and there, is other people with kids around their age, or I know like your sister Elizabeth has quite a few kids, how do you manage those feelings or do you have those feelings? Maybe it's just me of kind of like envy and just, I don't know if it's jealousy, but it's just something like, it's just resentment or something.
I couldn't really do any kids, especially young kids, for a while, which was hard because I've always been like, get down and play with everybody's kids. Like, I love kids. So 6-year-olds, they're hard for me because even though Finn would be 12 now, or is 12, 6-year-olds, I will always, like, if I think a kid's 6, like you know how you can kind of tell kids' ages. I don't know why. I just feel like they're special now, but for a long time, I couldn't do 6-year-olds or just little kids. And in fact, it was around Thanksgiving, the year that Finn took his wings. And I didn't work for a little bit, where a family hired me. And they're like, we have 4 kids. The chute is out on the bay, so we're going to come and pick you up at the marina and boat you out. And I was like, awesome. And they come, and this little boy named Finn, who's 6, decided to come with his dad. And I started to cry, and the dad was like, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm sorry that I'm having a moment. I said, I have a son named Finn. He passed away 6 months ago. He was 6. And the dad was amazing. Like, most people will be like, I don't know what to say. I'm like, so about those Blue Jays, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we just don't know how to deal.
Yeah.
And he was amazing. He started asking me questions about him, but it was very hard. So that reaction isn't so visceral now.
Yeah.
But I have really hard time with Finn's best friends, who we still see because we're very good friends with their parents, all pre-COVID anyway, that we'd see them.
Yeah.
Because I see all of the benchmarks, right? Like doing this or graduating, like we're not going to have those experiences with him. So that it's not as hard as it was.
Yeah.
But I will always look at his friends and be like, you know,
he would be there with them. Yeah.
Yes.
I agree. Yeah. We have similar experience with our friends that had kids around the same time. It's just always a little bit of a sting kind of. So you mentioned the outdoors, but how do you find the most like peace, like now when you think about Finn, like where do you find the most contentment and happiness?
This might sound odd, but like, I don't feel like I need to go and look for it or find it.
Yeah.
So there were some pivotal things that just sort of helped me, as I said, accept it, and then get to a place where I live a beautiful, happy, functional, amazing life. It just happens to be without Finn in it. And it's better than my life even was before Finn was in it, which sounds like I'm not saying it's better because Finn's not in it. I did a lot of work to get here. So I don't feel like I need to go out and find it. It's always there if I just look for it. Like looking out my window right now brings me peace and comfort. But I most of the time, unless I'm in a bad place or it's like around the anniversary of his death or Christmas. Oh, Christmas and Mother's Day, like, so help me, right? Like those are brutal days. Brutal days.
Yeah.
Then I'm just generally in a very good place.
Yeah. Do you do anything for those occasions? Like I'll call it his heavenly birthday. That's what I call when the anniversary of their passing.
Yeah.
Or his birthday or Christmas. Like, do you do anything for those that are?
We do. And we found that having tradition around it was really helpful to the point where it's not like I ever would look forward to that day, but I don't go into it and the weeks leading up to it just feeling like a disaster. So we call it Finn's Wings Day. So the day that he took his wings, we always take the day off work and we go outside and we do something. It's in April, so it can, sometimes we
April
go
in Ontario, Northern Ontario.
April in Ontario, up north in April, Ontario. So we usually go for a paddle. And if the ice is still in, then we'll go for a hike. We always make his favorite meals, which was make your own pizza. So we do that. And we involve David's parents who are still around with us and not in the hike or whatever, but usually we do, dinner with them.
Dinner. Yeah.
And then same with his birthday. Mother's Day. I'm doing better with it now, but I was really angry around Mother's Day for a long time. I can see you nodding your head.
Yeah. I'm nodding.
Because I was mad. I was mad at the world because I'd lost my mom and I'd lost my son. And so, I had like this massive identity crisis about not being a mom. And yet, and everyone would be like, oh, I'm so grateful for my mom and being a mom and all my beautiful children and my grandmother. And I was like, F you. I don't have any of that.
On those days, social media is a beast. It's just stay away.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot better with that. I just I've gotten to a place where like, I don't begrudge people for being happy about the things that I had and I loved, of course.
Yeah.
Christmas, I had I had a total meltdown, like bawling for days. David said, basically, a friend of mine had said, we're going to California. Why don't you just go to Ottawa to just stay in our house? But I couldn't function. And David basically packed my bag, dragged me out of the house, put me in the car, and we drove to Ottawa. And there was something about just not being at home that was really good for us for that Christmas. And so for many Christmases, actually, we escaped, which our families didn't enjoy because we weren't spending it with them. But I couldn't spend it with nieces and nephews. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I just bawl.
Yeah.
So now we're at a point where we spend it with family again and little kids. There's always a present from Finn, and there are always presents for Finn. Yeah, we still honor and recognize him for those special occasions. Yeah.
That's good. That's awesome. We also went away our first Christmas without Brady. We went to Mexico for a week, just disappeared. You're right.
Get out of here.
Family doesn't love it, but it's survival mode at that point. You just do what you need to do. So
the first grief counselor we saw, and believe me, I've seen many counselors, she said, you know what? You do whatever you need to do, like for a whole year, but don't make any big decisions. Don't split up. Don't don't buy a house. Don't buy a new car unless your car breaks down. Like, don't make any major decisions for at least a year. And basically she gave us permission to F everybody else's opinions and thoughts, because you have to look after yourself. And if you try to bend to what other people want, it's just not going to help. So that's what we did. Yeah. We were like, sorry, everybody, we're just going to go do our thing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we did.
Yeah. It changes the dynamic of that Christmas or something. And it just like, it's not as obvious that something is missing because you're in a completely different spot or something. I'm not really sure. Okay. So that's just finally, I guess, do you have a like a quote or a lyric or a verse or anything that you kind of go back to when you either think about healing or Finn or your grieving process?
I mean, it's not really a quote. I have another tattoo. It says Dhamma on my other wrist, which is a meditative practice that I picked up. It kind of means like cosmic energy, and it's described in different ways. But about a year also after Finn took his wings, I went and sat a meditation course. It's called Vipassana. It's 10 days of deep meditation, no speaking, no eye contact with the other people. Brutal, but amazing. So while it's not a word or a phrase, it's more like a philosophy. And that I feel like that really, well, this sounds dramatic, but kind of saved me, because at around 6 months, this is depressing, but I really was considering whether I wanted to live on the planet anymore. So when I went to the course, it's like deep therapy that just strips away all the stuff that I think would really take decades to get to, and trauma around Finn. Because I know, again, I'm on a tangent, but I'd seen his body when they were carrying him down from where they found him, which was very traumatic. And then I sat with him in the hospital, even though it's not recommended. I just needed to spend time with him. But then I had so much trauma, you can hear it in my voice, around the visual of his body, because he didn't, And so I would see dead bodies like everywhere. Like, I was seriously messed up. I closed my eyes and I'd see dead bodies. I'd dream about dead bodies. And I was super paranoid that David was going to die, even though like my entire life, I don't think anyone would describe me as like an anxious person, but I had all of this anxiety now. And so this meditation course, again, brutally difficult, like so challenging, but it cleared those things. So to go back to the tattoo, it's really about cosmic order. And like, while you may feel like everything is out of control, and I already told you, like, I am not a religious person, but I do believe that there is a universal power that I don't understand. But things happen for a reason, even though they're brutal, and I want them to be changed. This tattoo on my wrist, which I see daily, reminds me that I'm okay. Everything's good. And there are things that I don't understand, and sort of be a good person and be happy.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. Well, I think that's it. I mean, do you have anything else you want to say or before we go?
No, I mean, just for people, depending on where they are in their own, journey of loss and grief, or whether they're listening because they want to be able to support someone, there is hope, I think. And even though when you're clinically depressed and you can't see that it's there, it is there. If you can, hang in there and find it. Yeah, it's worth it.
It's great advice. Okay. So thanks so much for joining me today. That was awesome.
Thanks for having me.